Okay, tonight we're going to talk about commenting SIS packages. Okay, now I've got this package here that I've written, and this isn't a real package. I just threw a bunch of stuff on the screen to make it look, real SSIS-y, right? Because I'm not going to run this package. All I'm going to do is show you a little bit about comments. Okay, so again, just like the SP comments, we're commenting a lot of tribal knowledge here, and we're trying to set ourselves and our successors up for success. Okay, and that's what's really important. So, the same as SPs, you want to comment as much stuff in here as you can, especially when it comes to why you've done certain things. And I'll tell you, the way I started doing this was in teaching SIS classes. A lot of times, what I do is I write a package that's got several data flows in it that explains one thing or another, right? And so you usually, give the class, usually hand that SIS package out at the end of class, or email it out afterwards, right? So that people can go back and study it. Well, I always just started putting the main points of the lesson and comments in the packages, so that they could see what I was trying to demonstrate, or explain to them key points of something. So like with a for each loop, when I taught a for each loop, I would teach them what the increment variable was and how to work with it and stuff like that. So I started commenting that stuff in there, and then that just kind of naturally spilled over into production when I said, wait a minute, I've got this function here that I'm using, in this guy right here, right? Maybe in this guy right here, I've got a function in here, and I'm using this function because of this. Or maybe I've chosen to use a function for one reason or another, right? So, so it was just kind of a natural progression to go from doing that in a classroom setting to doing that in a production setting. And just like commenting SPs, it's so incredibly valuable. It's helped me tons when I go back later and try to figure out what I'm doing in an SIS package, or what somebody else is doing in an SIS package. Once I established this as policy and started forcing developers to do this before they could push their code into production, it's amazing the level of supportability you have in your packages by someone who has never even seen the package before. They're automatically so much further ahead than they would be before. So, with that in mind, I'm just going to show you a couple of things. I covered most of this stuff in the SP video, but I'll do some of it here too, right? So, of course, the first thing I want to do, you add annotation. That's how you add comments, okay? So the first thing I'll do is say security test. That's the name of the SP. That's the name of the package. And here you've got to set the font size. So here we'll set it nice and big. So I'll give all the usual stuff here, right? I'll give the name. I'll come over here and add a new annotation, and I'll say created by, and then Control Shift will allow you to go down to the next line. So that's Control Shift, and create date 9/20/2008, right? And then I'll even go so far as to say email at my so give some contact info there too, right? So you've got all this nice info, and automatically you've got a nice little header there. So if anybody has a question on the what's, whens, and whys that aren't documented in here, they know who wrote it and they know how to get in touch with them. And I think that's pretty important right off the bat. Because really, how many times have you opened up a package, you had no idea why it was written, who wrote it, how to get in contact with them, to ask them any questions about it? Nothing. So right off the bat, you're a lot better off, right? Now, come over here again, and a lot of the same stuff from that we had in the SPs, right? We've got purpose. This package collects perf data from all the boxes and then sends it FTP to the collector database on server 1. Right? So there we go. Now we have a purpose. Again, I'm going to have a call. Okay. This package gets called from a scheduled job by the same name. So I know that I know automatically that this gets called from a scheduled job, and I know that the job has the same name as the package. So there we go. Now over here, somewhere over here, right? Let me do this. I'm going to create this annotation. I'll usually put this off to the side somewhere if I can get my mouse to cooperate. I've lost my mouse for a second. Okay, I got that worked out. My mouse ran out of charge there for a second. Okay, add annotation. No, I'm just going to give it a little quick like this. Now, I'll come over here somewhere. So I can quit with the stupid. There we go. Off over here, off to the side. There we go. Something like that, right? And I'll just call this steps. And again, I'll give it something like that, right? Then I'll add another annotation, and I'll say 1, you know, collect data, shift enter. 2, send data to FTP. 3, transform data to fit into collector DB, and then insert data, right? And that's very simple. That's a very simplified version of that. A lot of times that'll be a lot more complicated, right? It'll state all kinds of things in there, right? That you need to know. But this is a very simple example. Now, in the old days of DTS, and I say old days, I mean, yeah, it is the old days. A lot of people were still on DTS. And so the comments are just as important there, because the comments are even more important there because in DTS it wasn't always clear where a package started. And even here, I suppose it could be really hard to figure out, you know, exactly where a package starts. So a lot of times with this first step, you know, I'll do something like this, and it's very simple, but start. Put that right there. Get out of there. And just put it right here. You know, just put it right there and tell them where it starts, and then show them the last step as well. And stop that. Come here. There we go. And end. So I've got a start and I've got an end. And like I said, that really doesn't mean much. in a package like this. But the bigger your package gets and the more confusing it gets, the more important that becomes. Okay. So so far we have, and I'm encroaching here a little bit, right? So far we have a header, we have a purpose and a call. That's all part of the header. This guy right here is probably going to be moved over a little bit. There we go. And we've got a start and an end, and we've got a process, right? We know the steps that this thing takes. And if you want to, you can even tie this in, right? So this is step 1. You could put a 1 here and a 2 here, or a 1 here and a 2 here and a 3 here and a 4 and a 4 here. You know, so you could tie those steps together with the sequences, right? And also name these things something. Okay, sequence container does no good whatsoever. Okay, this is collect data. Okay, it doesn't have to match the step. Okay, it just has to be descriptive for what it's doing. For each loop container, no, that's not a very good name for that. Okay, I didn't mean to open that, but as long as we're here, no, I'll do it here. I thought I would do it here. Fine, be that way. So for each loop container, you can say find each customer, right? So now you're collecting the data. You're going to find each customer, and here you're going to get the customer file, right? And you're going to, it's fine, be that way. Oh, I got to do that the other way. Sorry. Hold on, I'm getting there. Give me the properties then. Quit messing around with this thing. And there it is. Okay. And here we'll say, or we'll say load customer file. Okay. So name every single step something that has to do with the step. It's amazing how much easier a package is to read when you know exactly what you're trying to do, instead of, for each loop container, script container, script task, data flow, FTP task. It's impossible to read those kinds of things. Tell somebody what is going on. Tell yourself what's going on. So, you've got your header, you've got your steps, you've got your start and your end, which isn't as important in SIS, like I said, as it is in DTS. But sometimes for the really large packages, you may want to go ahead and just define a start position. It's much easier to see a start position like that, especially in the middle of the night when you get a call and you have to look at a package or whatnot, right? Or for somebody else, they can easily see, oh, it starts here. It's just something that's that much easier to look at, right? Now, we also have inline comments just in packages, just like we have in SPs, right? So if I'm here, it's really easy for me to add another annotation here and say, here you have to make sure that the file exists before you can process it, or this step will fail. Right? Now, this comment doesn't really tie into what the package actually does. I think I've covered all that before. These are just examples of comments. But you see here, I've got a nice little comment in here, right? And even right here, let me move this guy right over here. You end up moving packages around a lot, right? If I wanted to move those all in one thing, I would just select them all like that. So even right here, I could add an annotation and say on failure, go to source and try to find the file and reprocess if possible. Okay, so now I even know what my failure process is doing, and you can do the same thing in here too, right? Let's see, you'll say there are only 3 regions, so this process should run fast, right? Shift enter, make it a little more readable there. I like to shrink these guys to the size. So you get something like this, right? Come here. Or, you know, whatever you feel that somebody needs to know in here is what you need to put in there. If there's some reason why you did it and why you did it like this, or if there's something they need to know, like if there's code in here to check for the customer ID not being 17, if there's something special about the customer code 17, right? You know, you would put something in here. I don't know what I just did, but there we go. So you would come in here and say something like customer ID can't be 17 because that's the number that's used internally by accounting to audit something else, right? Doesn't really matter. So you've got this now you've got this thing here that says something very, very specific. Says something very, very specific about why something was done, and maybe there's and I'm saying this only because, you know, maybe there's a filter in here that filters out 17, that makes sure that the customer's not 17, right? That's the kind of thing you would need to know. Well, how come you're filtering out 17? I don't understand. Well, here you know why you're filtering out 17, right? Same thing as the FTP. One of the things I like to do, especially in these guys right here, when I have an external connection like this, is I like to put the connection contents out here. It makes it so much easier to read. There it is, add annotation. When I say server dot, right? So I got that, and maybe I'll even put in a username. You know, my name, password, my password, and then say permissions are read write. Okay, so maybe you want to make it easy on somebody and just document the connection parameters. You know, just to make it a little bit easier to read. You know, you don't have to, but it's something you can do. And I realize that the connection will probably be down here somewhere. But, you know, again, it just makes it that much easier to read right there. Anything you can see, you know, right off the bat. Say you've got a, see if I've got anything like that here. Script task is always really good because it never means anything, right? Script task is really important to, it's always really important to comment really well. So when you're doing something like a script task, let's see, what can we have this do? We can have this drop ID, right? That doesn't mean anything in the context of this, but in the context of a package it might, right? And why was and even inside of here you're going to have comments, so when you double click on this and you have a comment section in there, or when you have code in there, you're going to comment that as well. So that's right, I was trying to talk about files. Okay, so up here you can do this a couple different ways, right? So I can come in here and let's just add a step 5 because I'm just playing around here. So you could say get files from C:\my files. So again, oops, expand that. This is just another one of those things that's going to allow someone to support it so much easier, because they're not just sitting here, they're not having to come in here and click on every little thing they see and decide, what's important and what's not important and where everything is. The more you can put out front for them, the easier you're going to make their life and your life. So in 6 months when you come back and look at this, you may not remember where the files come from, and yeah, you can click on it and open it up and you can see, but it's so much easier to see it right here. Or maybe it's even easier, right? Again, to just add a little comment right there that tells you where the files come from. I mean, it's really that simple, right? That's because you're going to be that way. You can see it takes a little tiny bit of effort. But anyway, so now I've got these files here and I know why things are going on the way they're going on. And I can see here instantly where I'm getting them from, and I don't have to open it up. It's just that much easier to support. So, and of course over here on the other side, the same way that we did this one and the same way that we did this one up here, over here on the other side you can have a little history section, right? So again, if I say add annotation, I'll just give myself something to look at while I'm doing that. And if I drag this all the way over here, oops. So I have a little history section over here. That to 14. And now I can keep a change history the same as I did in my SPs. But this is a palette, right? You can do anything you want here except like openly draw, right? So look at the readability of this package already. It's a little bit busier than it was before, but look at how much more information is here too. I mean, it's tremendous the amount of information that's here already and how readable this is. I already, just by looking at this, before I do anything, I know the major steps of the package, what this package does, I know where it's called from, I know what it's for, I know who created it and how to get a hold of them, I know why I can't use customer ID 17, and I know what I'm doing specifically when it fails. Say if one of these was missing, right, this guy right here, if one of these were missing, I know what I'm doing, and you can even put why, You can fully document the entire failure process right here. You can say if this fails, you're going to try to do this if possible because you really want this to be resilient because of this or because of that, or all you really care about is spitting this out to a text file because there's this other group that looks at this instead and they prefer to get things in text files, or because you're going to spit it onto an email. So it needs to be a text file, something like that, that lets people know why you're doing it the way you're doing it. Because again, if things change, it helps you know whether or not you can change the process if you know why the process is the way it was to begin with. So if you prefer to do one thing, if you prefer to do your error handling in a database and they're doing it to a text file, Maybe you want to know why they're doing it in a text file and can you change it? Well, because, Agatha from accounting prefers text files, but Agatha hasn't been here for 3 years now, and this other guy is only doing the text file because that's what he's being sent. He doesn't even know that he has another option. So if you call this new guy in accounting, well, I say new guy, Agatha hasn't been here for 3 years, but if you call this new guy in accounting, that replaced Agatha, or maybe you're 2 or 3 people deep now, right? And you've had turnover in that department, and you offer them another solution. Maybe they'll jump on it and say, "Wow, I would love to see this in a database instead," or "I would love to get this as an HTML feed or something instead," or maybe we don't even care anymore because the only reason we were getting that text file before was because we were on this old system, and now we've got a system that monitors that stuff for us now, so we don't even care. We don't even look at this anymore. Well, you can kill that entire portion of the package now. So there are all types of reasons why you would want to document this tribal knowledge of why the things were done the way they were done. It makes it so much easier to go back and improve the package later, or at least make changes to it, or support it, or do whatever you need to do. So, yeah, when you will not. It's a little bit extra effort, right? I mean, look at this. It's a little bit of extra effort, but it's so incredibly worth it. Do not screw yourself out of this part of the process. This is such an incredibly, and see, you can get a picture of the whole package this way, right? You can have such a rich support environment for this kind of thing, that it's just incredible. So, go forth and put some serious thought into how you document your packages, and really put some thought into them. And again, the rule of thumb is pretend like you've got somebody sitting here, like you just finished writing this package, so everything is fresh on your mind, and pretend like you've got somebody sitting here that is going to replace you or is going to need to support this package, and you need to tell them what they need to know about supporting this package. What would somebody sitting right here need to know about this package in order to support it, and why you did the things that you did? Write that stuff down in this package, because in 6 months you may be that person. There is not a programmer out there who remembers every single detail about every single line of code that he wrote 6 months or a year ago. There's no way. You just can't do it. So, your successor may be you, or it may be somebody else. But somebody is going to be looking at this code in the future and pretend like they don't know anything about it, and tell them what they need to know right up front. Be nice to them. Put, file names out here. Put server names here. And just instead of saying load customer file, you can even say, load customer file, sure, and you can put a little comment out here that says which server it is. I mean, it's just that easy. And then when you come in here, whatever you've got in here, whether it be text files or scripts or whatever the hell, right? Whether it be lookup tables, or whatever, document inside of here as well why you're doing the things that you're doing in here. And it just goes on and on and on, right? So document things, document them well. I don't like to think of them as comments as much as I like to think of them as support and training. You are training someone in this package, so train them properly, because like I said, you may be training yourself in 6 months because you don't remember anything about why you did this. Anyway, that's all I have to say about it. Just take the effort. That's all I'm going to say. Just take the effort, and you will be rewarded 100 times over the first time you have to go open up something. The first time you have to go open up some of your old code, you will be rewarded.